Hey guys, it's AJ. I want to give you some information on how I quarantine both my corals and my fish, as well as a costly mistake that I made earlier this year. Hey guys, so here we are in my office where I have my quarantine systems slash frag tank. First we're going to go ahead and take a look at my frag tank, which is this 10-gallon tank up here. And the only reason why I set it up is I got tired of losing livestock, so I started quarantining everything that I put in my tank. Fish, corals, and even inverts to some extent will come and spend a month in here before I put them in the display tank. So just a quick overview on the equipment that I use to run my systems. They're pretty simple. Two 10-gallon tanks, one for fish, one for corals, a couple of high door power heads on each tank, a couple of fluval hang on the back filters, some Phoenix heaters, and then for the coral tank I use a AI Prime HD to light it, and then just some cheap marine land LED that I got years ago, don't even know from where, for the fish tank. Both tanks, I don't know if you can really see, are up in this area, are running off of my old Reef Keeper lights. I've got one for each tank. I mean, we all know Digital Aquatics went out of business, so there's really no point in me trying to sell it because they're not worth anything. So I figured I could put them to some sort of use. And so they found home here. But let's get back on topic here. So as I mentioned, this is my coral quarantine. Which it does have some frags from the tanks, as well as my most recent Worldwide Coral Club delivery. Those have been in a couple weeks, 2 weeks. Those have been in 2 weeks. Everything else has been in months. But anyhow, so I dip, first and foremost is I dip all my corals. The day I get them, I acclimate them and I dip them, and then I put them in the tank. Now when I dip those, if there's any other corals that are in the tank, I will also dip those separately and introduce them all as a collective group. So as you can imagine, when this gets full, it takes a while for me to dip corals. And I will repeat that process about every 3 to 5 days for 10 days to 2 weeks. I really don't have a set process that I follow. Sorry, I had a brain fart there, guys. But I really don't have a set process that I follow, other than I know I need to dip at least a maximum every 3 days, at the minimum every 5 days. And a couple weeks should interrupt any life cycle of anything that may be on these corals. And let me backtrack a bit. Even before I buy the corals, I make sure I buy them from reputable vendors that I know quarantine, whether it's one of my local LFS here called Reeflicious. I buy their corals. Worldwide Corals, as I mentioned, I have a Coral Club membership. Battle Corals, I buy battle boxes a couple times a year. And then I've purchased some stuff from Unique Corals and Vivid Aquariums as well. But that's been a while. So I make sure I get my corals from reputable vendors that I know have their own quarantine process in place, and then I have my own. So the corals will come in here for a minimum of 1 month, usually longer if it's just not a coral that I want in my tank, or I really think will fit my tank, especially now that it's starting to fill up. But anyhow, back to the dipping process. Sorry, I got sidetracked there. So I use two types of dips. I use the Coral RX and the Brightwell Coral Dip. I will alternate between the two. One time I will use the Coral RX, and then the next time I dip I will use the Meta Coral. And so far I can say I don't think I've had anything enter the tank. I haven't seen any type of coral parasites, hitchhikers, or even anything that affects fish as far as that goes. So I would say that's pretty successful. Occasionally I will use Melafix to help out with some issues maybe pertaining to algae and some bacterial stuff with the corals. Very rare. But yeah, so that's my coral quarantine, not much to it. Give me a second and I will show you guys the fish quarantine, which is right below it. Alright guys, Here we are looking down at my fish quarantine, which I figured you'd probably rather look at them versus my ugly mug. Right now in quarantine, I've got a powder blue and a yellow tang. They've been in for 24 hours. There's currently no medication or anything in the tank, which we will introduce their first dose of copper here during this video. But let me go ahead and tell you guys what I use for treatment. So all my fish will get 3 weeks, and this just recently changed. Before it was 1 week, but now it's 3 weeks of the cupramine that you see there on the left. I will keep it at the full dosage or slightly below for that entire 3 weeks. I will then do roughly a 50% water change, run some activated carbon for a day, and then run a week of the Prazi Pro. I figure those two treatments should cover any type of disease or parasite or whatever that my fish may get. Now those two treatments for the longest time were all I did, and I had no issues whatsoever with that. So as some of you may know, I lost all my livestock at the beginning of this year to velvet, and I mean, we're talking a copper band that I had for over a year that was fat and eating healthy, a blue throat trigger, flame angel, beautiful pair of snowflake clowns, a big fat fox face, Midas Blenny that had personality that you wouldn't believe, and a couple Antheus and some other livestock. A target mandarin that would eat frozen food all day long, like actively pursue it. So in January, it had been probably about 6 months or so since I previously introduced a fish, and I was down to wanting my last couple of fish, which I wanted some tangs. I purchased a yellow tang and a powder brown tang, similar size to the ones that you see here, and I placed them in this tank. Now, because tangs are territorial and aggressive with each other, and this is a small tank, and how prone they are to disease, I wanted to reduce the stress as much as possible during the month-long quarantine, or at the time it was a 3 week long quarantine procedure. A week of copper, a week of Prazi Pro, and then a week of just observation. So to reduce that stress, let me just show you guys. I started using Stress Guard. Okay, which, nothing against Stress Guard. It's even listed on the label not to mix with other medications, including copper, and then cupramine says the same thing, not to mix with other medications, as it may have an adverse effect. Well, I didn't really read that. Actually, I didn't read that. But anyhow, so I was dosing Stress Guard for the whole length of the treatment, both the cupramine, the Prazi Pro, and the week of observation. Literally the day the morning I came in to get the fish out of quarantine to put them in the display tank, the powder brown was dead out of nowhere. Well, the yellow tang, I thought in my own ignorance, I thought it made it through copper. Maybe it was just some weird thing that the treatment I had, killed the powder brown. So because I wanted other fish, I took the yellow tang and I put it in the sump of my 75 where it would live out its days until I got another tang, so that way I can introduce them together. I then bought a powder blue and a powder brown, and I was like, I'm going to try 3 tangs. I put them both in quarantine, and again, at this time I still didn't know the Stress Guard and copper would have an adverse effect, basically neutralize each other. So I did the same thing. Well, after about 3 or 4 days in quarantine, one of them, I want to say it was the powder brown, started showing what I thought was ick, but I was confused because I was dosing copper. At the very least, if it showed it would fall off and should die in the water column. Well, after about 5 or 6 days, it progressively got worse, and then I saw that shimmery velvety coat that you get, and that within a week the powder brown was dead. The powder blue died a day or two after that. I was completely confused. I had no idea what was going on. I thought maybe I had a bad thing of cupramine that was expired or something, and you know, whatever the case may be. But anyhow, at that point, I was like, you know what? I'll just introduce the one tang into the system. And I went to go grab the yellow tang out of the sump and put it in the display, and it was dead. And it'd been eating in the sump and everything like that, and I have no idea. Like, it was, you know, with it being in the sump, I really couldn't inspect it, but you know, I should have probably paid better attention. Over the next 7 days, I lost every single fish in my tank, all because I mixed stress guard with cupramine. So my tank laid fallow for 90 plus days. Now has fish in it, and I've learned my lesson. I've also become wiser due to the inexperience. Now if I add stress guard, I add it for the first 24 hours only. Usually when I introduce fish to my quarantine system, they go 24 hours without anything in the tank, or I'll add stress guard just to help make the transition easier, and then I will add the copper and go from there. So that is what I am doing. That is the lesson I learned, but I just wanted to let y'all know that in case any of you were unaware, as I was. Do not mix stress guard with any copper treatments. They will neutralize each other and the copper will become ineffective. Okay? So anyhow, like I said, it's been 24 hours since these guys have been in the tank. So I'm going to go ahead and add their first dose of cupramine, which I already have laid out right there next to the stress guard, ready to go. So let me go ahead and do that now. Alright guys, so that's a quick little video or some quick information on my fish quarantine system. I'm going to go ahead and show you guys some close-up of the coral frags that I have in the tank above it. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm trying to do more videos, and I look forward to any feedback that you guys may have. Everyone have a good week and happy reefing.